Welcome to The Quad. Today we have a special show because I'm back. It's been a while. Nice to see you all again. Vivian Bercovici. I'm here once in a while these days. I moved in the summer to southern Israel, to a kibbutz from the center of Tel Aviv, where all the action is supposed to be. But I got to tell you, there's a lot to be said for living in the south. And I'm here with Shoshanna Keats Jaskoll, and we are going to rock it today because there's always too much going on.
Always too.
So, right?
Too ridiculous.
Crazy.
Of things.
The big issue that we're going to get into today are the Trump cabinet appointees, assuming, of course, that they will be confirmed, and what that means for the U.S., Israel, the Middle East, and, of course, top of mind, Iran. When we say the Middle East. Well, actually, maybe it's Israel top of mind. It's everything. Some very bold appointments, which indicate a very clear direction for where this administration is going and how it intends to treat the Middle East. And I mean, I think that, Shoshanna, it's really important because we were just talking about this earlier and who we really want to focus on. But I think as an overall sort of comment, the key factor for Trump in making these appointments appears to be loyalty.
Yeah. I mean, that's who that guy is, right? Like, I remember the first time, I'm sure we all do, when people were getting fired left and right from the White House because they didn't do what Trump wanted. And I guess he kind of feels like they're working for him. If you're working for me, then what I say goes, as opposed to most people or presidents, they hire the person because they're professional for that position. No president, regardless of where he comes from, is going to know everything about defense, finances, local issues, foreign issues. It's just impossible. Nobody does. So you hire people hopefully based on what they know and you listen to their expertise. But Trump is quite obviously doing the opposite, which is, this is where I want, and I'm putting the people who agree with me and will listen to me into these positions, which doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do a good job, but it certainly leaves a lot to be, guessed. Like, what will they do, and how will this work, and will they be loyal?
So, yeah, really interesting. I mean, I think that there's been a lot of talk about how Trump made these appointments and what is going to be the difference between, his first administration and Trump 2.0.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are different schools of thought with respect to what you just threw out there. Like, well, no, you need to put in people who are expert in that area and who really have deep background. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And it really depends on the portfolio. I would not question the ability or competence of Marco Rubio or Mike Huckabee, two of the people we're going to focus on today. Marco Rubio, of course, being nominated for Secretary of State, and Mike Huckabee to be the ambassador to Israel. Trump's setting a very strong tone in making those appointments. But I'm not sure that he will not brook or accept any criticism or pushback. I mean, let's keep in mind, Rubio was very anti-Trump for a long time. So he may have drunk the Kool-Aid, but I mean,
or he may just being practical.
But here's something really interesting that I was listening to on a podcast, and I just don't remember which one because there's a lot of information going in and out.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's ever been another president, certainly not in recent memory or for a very long time, another president who had the opportunity to go in for 4 years and then have this kind of break.
Like, kind of step back and
exactly, and then come back in. I mean, typically a president is 2-term, and they're kind of living with their mistakes, and you don't get that clean break opportunity. And what Trump has done, even while has been prosecuted and like all the crazy stuff that's been going on, right?
It's nuts.
Crazy.
It's nuts.
But he's also had a really solid group that has spent at least the last 2 years looking hard at how to have a more effective, efficient government this time. They know the roadblocks they encountered, which, I'm sorry, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, guys, but which are classic deep state. And they know what they encountered, and they're prepared.
Who's they?
To work around them. They are, we'll call his kitchen cabinet, for lack of a better term, advisors
Are they still the same as they were last time? Because I just remember, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. I don't know who's still there from 4 years ago.
These. I don't think these are household names. I think these are
his personal people.
Not even personal people. I think they're people he's collected and come to know over the last few years, who have been stepping up and advising. So
interesting.
On the legal side, for example, so many things that he wanted to get through and pass into law in his first swing, a swing at bat. So many of those things were blocked by justice. And he and his team are developing and have a better understanding now of how to manage justice so that you can get the result you want. Now, some people will say, well, basically, he's just going to fire everybody who disagrees with him, right?
Well, he did last time. I don't know if he will this time.
I think there are also, I'm not advocating for one or the other, but from a policy perspective, when you have a bureaucracy that becomes too big and too entrenched, they develop their own interests. And
true.
I mean, it's not a U.S. thing. It's a liberal democracy thing. It's everywhere. It's in all of the Western liberal democracies. The bureaucracies have become their own power bases, and that's a problem. And he sure encountered that in spades. But let's go back to the actual appointees, shall we?
Sure.
All right. So who do you want to do first? You want to do
Huckabee? Huckabee, the evangelical Christian minister. Yeah.
Former governor of Arkansas forever, decades, Mike Huckabee.
Yeah.
What do you think of Mike Huckabee?
I don't really know Mike Huckabee. I haven't followed his career. I know America as I grew up in America, United States, I should say. And they're generally, evangelicals are very wholesome. They have very family values. Obviously, as a Jewish woman, it makes me a little bit nervous what that means exactly. But as Secretary of State, that's what he's up for? No, he's not really.
Huckabee is going to be the ambassador.
But an ambassador to Israel, that's not really an issue. He's not doing local policy. He's not dealing with
why does it
abortions.
make you nervous? What makes you nervous about it? The family values part.
Wanting to ban abortions and things like that. It's
not in his purview, but
not in his purview, exactly. So I'm not worried about that. And when it comes to Israel, there's no question the evangelicals are very, very good friends to Israel. They always support Israel. Okay, actually also makes me nervous. I'll say why. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Just there's two of us because we could just control the entire conversation right now. I love it.
We're taking over.
Evangelicals support Israel because of what they want to happen. All the Jews come to Israel and then Christ comes again. We can't pretend that's not there. It's there. And
they're very motivated.
They're very motivated as long as that's okay, meaning that it's okay that we're here and not at the end. Well, at the end, you have to be born again. At the end, you have to be converted. Long history there, a lot of national trauma, a lot of historical trauma, in this DNA. And it just makes me nervous. Sometimes friends are really good friends for a long time until they're not. And that is my only caveat about not him as a person, but generally evangelical beliefs in Israel.
Yeah, I'd relax about that. I think that they're going to be pretty solid until Mashiach comes, and then the story's over. So
wait, but Trump is Mashiach.
They're right, or we're right. One side or the other. But Mike Huckabee is interesting. First of all, he's got a great name. His daughter, just to remind people who are sitting there thinking, that sounds familiar. Aside from having been the governor of Arkansas, Clinton, Huckabee, we've got all these really big names coming out of Arkansas. Small state, small population. Mike Huckabee's daughter, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, was the White House press secretary for 2 years under the first Trump administration. So clearly a very aligned family. Yeah, it goes deep down. But there's a clip going around, I think it's from 2009, maybe 2011, and maybe they can roll it, of Mike Huckabee when he was visiting Israel at that time. And he made comments to the effect that, we really have to stop talking about the West Bank. There isn't a West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria. We really have to stop talking about settlements.
Right.
They're not settlements. They're towns and villages and neighborhoods. And he went full on this is Israel.
Which many Israelis aren't comfortable with, meaning they're not ready to do that, which makes it super interesting.
So, and here's where it gets even more interesting, in my view, is that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has appointed Yechiel Leiter to be
the parts are moving in
So tell us what your view on that appointment, the Yechiel Leiter to Yechiel Leiter, Israeli ambassador to the United States.
It's a really good question. I hate like positing on people when I don't really know that much about them, but it's clear that, as I said, the pieces are being set up for a very specific and particular way, which is more right wing, which is Judea and Samaria. I mean, I don't think that necessarily saying Judea and Samaria is right wing. I think that is correct. West Bank is obviously, people don't even know. What does it mean, the West Bank? Ask how many people in the world would not even know it's the West Bank of Jordan, right? Because that's how it was considered when it was Jordanian territory, when the Jordanians occupied it. But it does seem that pieces are being lined up for a very particular way of thinking about the future of Israel, and that could be really good if it's done right, and it could be bad if it's done wrong, to be honest.
So, but the thing is, what is the it? So let me just offer, having been in the sausage-making factory, so to speak, but both, most of my career has been in the private sector, but servicing all kinds of clients, including government and including the federal government in Canada. But also when I served as ambassador, I was obviously inside. So I really got a close-up look. But I have a lot of policy experience, and there are certain things, doesn't matter what country, there are just certain kind of norms that apply. And in this case, I'm going to suggest this. You have each country putting a very, I'll say, hard line in terms of Judea, Samaria, positions on settlements. And you're right, that makes many Israelis a little uncomfortable. But what it also does, in my view, is it sets up both Trump and Bibi to have these very, I'll say, extreme or ambassadors, emissaries who hold what many would consider to be extreme kind of, no compromise views. And that then allows the governments, the administration, to pull back a little.
Interesting.
Right? It's always good when you have a foil.
Yeah, agreed.
And you could say, well, yeah, I know what they want, and they can get out there and they can articulate it and they can advocate and, make people feel that the government is pushing for certain things, and maybe the government is.
And then Bibi can come off as the moderate.
Exactly.
He is, by the way. People don't remember the Hebron Accords. He's the one who gave Hebron. So, people really think of him as a hawk. He's really not.
I wouldn't call him moderate. I would call him a pragmatist, an opportunist.
Fine. I'll take that. I agree with that.
Wherever that's going to put him on the spectrum.
Interesting. You think these are strategic appointees so that we can say, oh, but we're pulling back our crazy people just so that we can get back to the middle where we haven't been able to get yet because everyone's been to that other end.
Absolutely. Because let's be real, assuming Bibi stays in power for the next couple of years, he's running everything. Okay? He's running defense. He's running he's running foreign affairs. And so he is going to run any significant foreign policy issue from his office. And so he's going to pull it back. I know what he's saying, but it's okay. I'm
that's lighter.
Exactly.
So it's interesting when you say that, because I think a lot of people, a lot of Jewish people and Christians probably are looking at Trump as like Mashiach. Why? Because he's going to do all the things we've wanted to do and that we've prayed for. He's going to build Jerusalem and he's going to blah, blah, blah. Guys, Trump is not Mashiach, okay? Can we just get that out there? Trump is not Mashiach. He may do some things you like, but he's not Mashiach. And I think that you're right. I think that
always
he says, first of all, obviously. But second of all, someone said there's a difference between a bullshitter and a liar. Trump is a bullshitter. That is what he does. He talks big and he screams that. And at the end of the day, he doesn't do most of the things he says he's going to do. Enough of what he does is dangerous enough, Bonagid, okay? I'm not going to say that he's not dangerous. I do think so. We can talk about it later. But I think that most of it is hyperbole. I think most of it is to sound like this, and in the end, like you said, more pragmatic. And I just
aspirational. Let's say aspirational over bullshitter. Okay, but listen, I'm not carrying water for anyone, but I think that politics, people get excited, they get wound up. Sure. And look, he's got Elon Musk. These are dreamers, used in a very different context. I know, but I have to comment on the Mashiach thing.
Sure.
Because Shoshanna and I, come from somewhat different worlds. And I have to say, not once have I heard anyone, and my circles are not silos. They're not that limited, but just to keep it real, I have not heard anyone refer to Trump as the Mashiach. And
a
I
very
want to point
American
out
thing.
his hair is orange.
Yes.
And he does not have, like, Mashiach. You've seen the pictures.
One would think Mashiach would be gorgeous.
I'm just saying, like, this isn't going to work. And we've heard that there are previous Mashiachs. What's the plural? Whatever. So I think that, yeah, that's a kind of extreme and maybe more prevalent in Bet Shemesh and in
I would say prevalent in New York.
New York.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, New York. People are...
New York, what's in the water there?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah.
Because they think, because someone says, yeah, we're gonna build Jerusalem. We're gonna this, that, and the other. They think that this guy is gonna come. Honestly, you want to know why? Because Jews have become very passive and very outsourced their Judaism. Okay, this is a whole rant of mine. And I think when you expect someone else to solve your problems and someone comes in and speaks the way he speaks, people get super excited because it means someone else is going to deal with the problems and someone else is going to save everyone. And I don't have to do that much. It's another rant.
Okay, well, we're gonna put that rant on hold because I want to get back to focusing on this administration is going to be hard on Iran.
Thank God.
Right? And that's what it all, like, these are people, all of them, who will say, no, we're not going to bring you billions of dollars in cash and suitcases.
I just hope you behave.
No, we're not going to lift sanctions. In fact, we're going to reimpose them and maybe tougher. No, we're not going to rein in Israel from attacking your oil refineries or other targets.
I'm all in for that.
And so I think that one thing with the Trump 2.0 is they're going to be very hawkish on Iran. They're going to be doing it from day one. And that's one of the main reasons that these people are in place is to deliver that message.
Interesting.
And to back up.
And would you say
Trump?
This is like top agenda, meaning if you have to make a choice, if you're filling your cabinet, if you're saying, okay, this is what I have to focus on as president, would you say Iran is the way to do that, meaning, or the reason, the motivation to put people in?
In these portfolios, I would say it's Iran and China and Russia.
Yeah, I agree.
Which, arguably are the same.
Correct.
So, but I mean, Iran also sells well in the U.S. I think people understand the Iran threat more than they understand some of the others.
Interesting.
I wish them all well. I really do.
Oh, me too.
I wish them all well.
It's
really tough doing what they're doing, particularly Rubio's job, I think.
Agreed.
And so let's kind of,
I'm looking, but I like when you said Trump 2.0 and seeing what he's going to learn from the first time, because I would love to see him actually learn from it, take the things he's good at and fly with that, and the things that he messed up. I don't expect him to say mea culpa, because that's not who Trump is, but I would like to see a little bit more responsibility, a little bit less, crazy stuff, and more get down to business. That would be quite nice to see.
Well, I think, look, he's a disruptor. He is what he is by nature, but the world needs a disruptor right now.
All right.
So you may have noticed that Shoshanna and I are having way too much fun, but we do miss Fleur Hassan and Emily Schrader, both of whom are traveling at the moment and unable to be here. So we very happily
stepped in.
Right? I know. I wanted to wear a crown today. And Fleur, though, before she hopped on a plane, had the opportunity to sit down with the one and only Dave Rubin.
Dave Rubin, what an honor and a pleasure to have you on the quad. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Do I call you Madam Vice Mayor? Do I call you
Fleur? Call me Fleur. We're friends, Dave. We're friends.
We are, but you're pretty important. I'm just a little podcaster over here.
I'm not that important. I'm important at home, as my father would say. Dave, what's going on? You must be in celebratory mode in Florida, especially, but all the wonderful work that you've been doing over the last few months to help the Republicans get into power. Did you expect the win to be so big?
I did expect him to win. Obviously, I'm thrilled at the results. Now, not only do the Republicans have the presidency, so they have the executive branch, but they've got the Senate, and they've now got Congress, so they've got the legislative branch. And there is such renewed hope in America. Now, I know that there's still a certain set of people that are hysterical and angry and that have Trump derangement syndrome and they want to burn it all down and all that. But let's put those children aside for the moment. The people that love America, your audience that loves America in many ways because it's deep connection to Israel. These are the people that are celebrating right now. This is an unbelievable win for freedom, for democracy, for capitalism, and you can feel hope again. That's what I'm seeing more than anything else. I mean, literally this morning, I was walking my dog and one of my neighbors just stopped his car just to honk, honk, honk and start screaming Trump at me. Like, there is a feeling like, oh, we're not going to give it away. I think everyone in America that really loves America the way that we do felt like, oh, wow, did we just give it away and we didn't even realize it? Or are we about to give it away and not do anything about it? And suddenly it feels like not only did we get it back, but I'll make a prediction here, Fleur, which is that America is about to go into an 80s style revolution. We are about to have such an explosion of culture and music and entertainment and all of these unbelievable technological things, AI and everything else that's on the horizon. We have been slowly all the gears have been turning against creativity and ingenuity, all the things that make America great, and they're about to all burst forth again. And you can really see it in just this 1 week, and the guy's not even president yet.
It's really amazing. I mean, even the Middle East, as you know, Dave, everything is about perception. And all of a sudden, the Iranians are not going to attack, and all of a sudden they're apologizing. Well, we weren't involved with any type of plot to kill Trump. All of a sudden, things seem a little calmer here as well. And it's just interesting how I've had to have many difficult conversations with a lot of Americans, even here, that think this is the end of democracy. And I don't, for us here in the Middle East, when we see the threat so clearly of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and, I was asked today, I did an interview in Bloomberg, and they said, well, what's going to happen? I said, well, look at what Trump did the last time he was here. Maximum pressure that almost choked the Iranian, the Islamic Republic. And then the other side is what Biden did was let go and pour in billions. And to us in Israel, those are the important things. And now I'm looking at his picks for Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. I know you know him. Tell us a little bit about Marco.
Oh, first off, so, Marco he's my senator here in Florida. I've met him many times. We've done events together. I've interviewed him. I know him fairly well. I think he is a phenomenally good choice. I think as it pertains to Israel, Rubio understands peace through strength. We don't even have to get into the specifics of everything going on with Israel at the moment. But, there's this weird notion that I see on parts of the right. Forget the left for a second. The left in America is just completely lost and has been blown apart, and there's very little that makes sense there. On the right, there's something beautiful brewing, which is this new coalition of ex-lefties, sort of Tulsi Gabbard, RFK types, Joe Rogan, me, this really weird collection of people that definitely are not traditional Republicans all coming together. But then there's also sort of the more isolationist wing. And I have a lot of sympathies to the isolationist people, except that in the real world, you get peace through strength. You don't get peace by saying peace. That actually that's the signal to the bad guys, oh, these people don't want to do anything. So when you have this weird alliance between this sort of new group on the right and like the Bernie Sanders types, and it's like, okay, you want peace. Well, peace is good. That's nice. But you don't get it by saying don't. That was the famous line that Joe Biden said, don't. And then Kamala Harris repeated it. Is Iran going to attack Israel? Don't. Well, that doesn't mean anything unless you actually mean it. So I think it's very clear that what Trump's doing across the board right now is he's hiring highly competent people. Homan, who he's bringing in, who is the former head of ICE, who's now going to be in essence, the border czar, but deal with the deportations. This is a serious guy. Mike Huckabee, who's going to be the ambassador to Israel.
Huckabee, great guy, big lover of Israel, incredible.
And he understands.
Zionist, yeah.
And he understands the history, he understands the people, he understands the geography. Basically, what's becoming very obvious is we are very quickly going to extricate ourselves from what Biden did. And what did Biden do? He said, Pete Buttigieg, you're gay, congratulations, you're transportation secretary. Rachel Levine, you're trans, congratulations, you're deputy secretary of health. None of it made any sense. But we are officially putting that chapter of America behind us, and we're putting I think we're opening up a chapter of competency, and it might be odd, I suppose, that it's coming from Donald Trump if you were to just look at his whole career, but here we are, and I think it's great, and I think people really understand it, and I think we owe it to America right now to give him as long a leash as possible to create a great team, which clearly he's doing.
Well, I'm relieved that he didn't fall, because a lot of people were saying to me, well, he's going to fall into the isolationist part of the Republican Party, like the Tucker Carlson type of the Republican Party. And I think that picking Rubio and picking the other people that you were mentioning is saying, no, we're part of it, and we're going to lead, and we're going to be strong leading.
Well, look, the truth is that someone's going to lead the world. So if not the United States, then who? So if there was some other country that was really on the up and up, and really we felt had the ideals that free people and all of these things, and they were ready to do it, and the U.S. was like, boy, we have a lot of problems right now, we need to kind of relax, then maybe there would be some argument for that. But the alternatives basically are China or Russia. So I don't think anyone that's really thinking clearly about this stuff understands that shouldn't be. So again, I have a lot of sympathies, and there's a lot of parts of me that are libertarian in nature, and I think we should rethink a lot of our alliances and what's going on with NATO and all of these countries not paying. But Trump understands all of that. So he's going to make them pay properly. I think sending Elise Stefanik in to be our UN ambassador, she's going to bang up that place just like Nikki Haley did. So the isolationist wing, I think there is, from a budgetary perspective, I understand their position. But if you really want peace, right, you don't want adventurous wars, you don't want nation building and all of those things, well, Donald Trump gave it to us the first time, and I think that's the exact same posturing we're going to get this time.
Well, thank God. Dave, so what are I guess the many parts of America now trying to come to terms with this. If you wanted to give a message of unity or healing to the people, are they a lost case? I mean, you yourself said that you came from more of the Democratic side. Maybe tell us a little bit about your journey and what you would say to these people so that America moves forward together and it doesn't become a divided country.
It's funny because I actually don't love the word unity, because unity sort of also means conformity. And I believe in the individual, and I believe in our differences. And I think in a healthy democracy, we should always be fighting these things. And I like a certain tension between liberalism and conservatism. Take the things from the past, look where the new horizons are. So in a healthy democracy, we would have that. Unfortunately, what happened in the last decade in America is the Democrat Party went completely off the deep end. And then oddly, what happened is instead of the Republican Party going off the deep end the other way, the Republican Party actually moderated. Donald Trump moderated the Republican Party. Nobody in their right mind thinks that Donald Trump is a hardcore, like conservative, the way conservatives were thought of 30 years ago. He's a New York City businessman. He clearly, look, this is a guy who came in his first time around and he was for gay marriage. Barack Obama was not for gay marriage the first time he came around. So Donald Trump has incredibly transformed the Republican Party and by extension transformed the country. I would say most Americans probably came from a similar perspective as me, which is that I'm from New York. I grew up with sort of the factory settings, that it was something like, liberals and Democrats are kind of good and Republicans are mean and they like money and war, something like that. And then when you wake up out of that, what you consistently find, everyone always talks about people's red pill moment. You always have a red pill moment, whether it's suddenly you realize that your child at school is being called a different name that doesn't correlate with their gender, or you suddenly realize you got passed over at work for a promotion because you're white, or the series of other things that can happen. You have your red pill moment. And then generally what happens is you start seeing the whole world differently, and you start realizing, boy, the people I thought were my enemies are not my enemies. And ooh, I did make some mistakes over here on this side. And that is what has led to this beautiful, very, very wide tent American moment. So I don't see unity on the horizon. The progressives are not very good at looking in the mirror. If they were good at looking in the mirror, they might have looked in the mirror in 2016 when Trump got elected the first time and said, boy, maybe this identity politics stuff is kind of dangerous. But they just kept going down that road and going and going. I suspect something's a little bit different this time because now they've lost culture. Clearly, there's been a cultural shift now where it's cool to be pro-America. It's not cool to hate America. People are tuning out of CNN and MSNBC and they're watching my show and Rogan and things like that. So now there's been a massive cultural shift. So if Trump has the right ideas, the right staff, and the culture behind him, we can fix the world to whatever extent countries and politics can fix the world. There's obviously a religious and philosophical part of fixing the world too. I think Jews know particularly how that works. But to whatever extent we can do it as societies, I think we have the most unbelievable opportunity ever right now.
I mean, I agree with you. And for us in Israel, as you well know, that pivotal moment is going to come with what's going to happen with the Islamic Republic of Iran. That really is the pivotal moment. They armed and they deployed all their proxies that caused the worst suffering that we've seen here for so long. And as we saw with the first Trump administration with maximum pressure, we're hoping that this time, for the Iranian people, if nothing else, that they really decide that regime change is a goal in the Islamic Republic of Iran.
One idea that I've been talking about is you can see, as you mentioned up top, that the world is already reordering itself. It's getting prepared for a Trump presidency, right? So if Biden now has, in essence, 2.5 months or so to create a legacy, because otherwise his legacy is really mangled. His legacy ultimately turns into, you ushered in all of this woke stuff and then stepped down, put up sort of this puppet lady, and then you brought Trump back. Like, that's not a great legacy for Biden. But if Biden wants a strong legacy, there is a lot of leverage he can apply on Qatar, on Iran, on a lot of different countries right now, on Hamas directly, to get the hostages back.
Yeah.
Like whatever hostages are still alive and who knows at this point. But he has a chance that his last move as president, the thing he could be most remembered for is, right before old Joe Biden, who they basically kicked out of office, right before he stepped down, he used his American power one more time. Because otherwise Trump is going to do it. In many ways, Trump is handing Biden a gift. You don't have to play footsie with the lefties anymore. Everyone's had it with them.
This is his legacy. This could be his Churchill moment. Dave, you're really the voice of reason, and thank God that the media is shifting. Thank you so much. It's such an honor that you were on our show.
I'll see you in the free state of Florida. We call it the other promised land.
I can't wait. Thank you so much. Thank you for being
My pleasure.
Take care.
So now, for what I hear is everybody's favorite part of the show, Scumbags and Heroes. And we have a special scumbag coming up, but I'm not going to tell you yet. You got to hang on for that. All right, Shoshanna, you start. Scumbag. Who is your scumbag of the week?
My scumbags are the anonymous people who crossed out images of the female hostages. As you know, in Israel and around the world, but in Israel, we have big, big posters of all of the men and women who are held hostage. They are in malls, they're on the streets, they're everywhere. And unfortunately, more than once, particularly in very Haredi neighborhoods where there are extremists, the female faces have been either cut out or graffitied over. There is a phenomenon in the Orthodox world of extremists that refuse to allow any image of women or girls. This is not Judaism. This is not Torah. This is not halacha. This is extremism. And it's important for me to say that because we, Orthodox Jews, have to speak out against it because it is not Torah and it is not Judaism. And the only time many people can see how bad this is, they let it go in magazines, they let it go in advertisements all the time. And people are like, well, live and let live. Well, it's culture. No, it's not culture. It's extremism. It's violence. But the only time they see it is when something like this happens. And people get very angry. How could they graffiti over the faces of the hostages? Well, if you let them do it to everyday women and girls, then why would they not do it to the hostages? If you let boys and men think that they can't see women and girls anywhere, so why would they not do it to the hostages? When you lose your perspective, you lose your perspective. You are my scumbags of the week, but I'm going to add that the leadership that doesn't stop it when it happens every single day, you're also my scumbags of every week. Because this is not Judaism, it is extremism, it is damaging to everyone in the community, and it needs to stop.
And they're not anonymous, right?
The leadership is not anonymous.
Is not anonymous and should be held accountable,
yes.
And they're not.
And every single one of you at home should be speaking out against this.
Okay,
Sorry, I get very fired.
No, that's I think well chosen. My scumbag, maybe a repeat, but gosh, he deserves it. Philippe Lazzarini, the head of UNRWA, who is literally shaking wobbly knees since Trump was elected, because it's very clear that one of the first items of business after inauguration is going to be to cancel for eternity any funding to UNRWA for a start.
Amen.
I mean, the UN, watch out. So, the U.S. has been historically the largest contributor, largest financer of UNRWA. I think it's over $300 million a year.
Wow.
And they've been withholding funds over the last year or so, even under Biden. But Trump is just going to tear up all the checks. And Lazzarini has mounted a very effective, I think, and strong social media campaign and media campaign pleading for the helpless people in the Gaza Strip. And let me be clear, I don't enjoy anyone's suffering. And I think that what the people of the Gaza Strip have been through in the last year and a bit is horrific. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But the blame lies with Hamas, and the blame lies with UNRWA, which we know colludes with Hamas.
Yeah.
We know that they look away. We know
They hire them.
that they hire them openly.
Yeah.
They also, their headquarters in Rafah, as one of many examples, sat atop a Hamas server farm.
Crazy.
So we don't need to go into all of that. But Lazzarini, it's over. Okay? It's just, there's going to be a seismic shift, and there are going to be new elections in other countries like Canada within the next year. And pretty much foregone conclusion that Pierre Poilievre will be prime minister there. And there goes another $300 million or so of funding, it was disclosed, that has been sent to UNRWA in the Trudeau years. So I think that you're going to start to see a lot of countries pull back and say,
No
we're
more.
done.
Yeah.
We're done.
No more free ride.
They're thugs. We don't want to support this.
Yeah.
And this
And
is the
divert those funds to people who actually do help the people in Gaza.
Exactly. And there are people who can help.
Yes. Yes.
And so Lazzarini, you get the prize. Okay.
Well, that is an evergreen. Evergreen.
But I thought he deserved special mention this week. All right. Now, you've all seen the amazing Dave Rubin, and he just couldn't resist. He had to do a scumbag. And I have to say I'm a little jealous because I share his views. Over to you, Dave.
Oh, there are so many scumbags in the American media landscape, and there are so many scumbag politicians and all of those things. I could choose, just MSNBC as a quote-unquote news organization, or I could say it's Joy Reid over there, or I could say it's Sonny Hostin on The View, these neo-racist, progressive lunatics who, by the way, the only thing that unites these people is that they hate Israel. But actually, I'll pick a jihadist who appears on all of these shows. I'm sure you are no fan of his, and I have no doubt that you've probably debated him on Piers Morgan, but Mehdi Hassan. I mean, this guy is a Hamas apologist who, from what I understand, is at least partly funded by Qatar, like so many people in D.C. He's absolutely a terror apologist. He's said horrible things in the past about gays and Jews and all the rest of it. But the worst thing about him is he purports to be this moderate, and he is completely on the side of the people that will murder and maim and everything else. He was defending the jihadists in Amsterdam who were attacking random Jews on the street. But I would say that to give Scumbag of the Week a positive ending, the day of these guys is ending. People see through it. Mainstream media is done, and more of us are waking up to the truth. So there you go.
All right. Well, since it's only two of us, it's you first again.
Okay, great.
I know. We're going to do
I'll
the
do
fun part. Or as my kid would have said when she was younger, it was so cute, the most funnest part. But I don't know.
Fun is Bart.
Yeah. Who's your hero,
So
Shoshanna?
my hero is a heroine, Moran Stella Yanai.
Aye.
She was held hostage in Gaza, and she was kidnapped, I believe, 3 times. I think she escaped, and the last time was by 13 Hamas terrorists, and she fought like a lioness to be free, but she was captured. And after her ordeal and after a little bit of recuperation, I think she had a broken leg. She had a lot of lacerations. She was beaten up. She spoke heroically, and I'm sure we have a clip of this, to one of the leaders of the UCLA encampment, who is I could not sit near him. I don't know how she sits near him. I don't know how she has the poise to tell her story to this person who denies Israeli suffering, who thinks that everyone's innocent in Gaza, and those who aren't innocent are completely justified in what they did. And she sat there and stopped the audience even from booing him and said, let him speak. I want him to hear. He's a human being. She gave him the humanity that he didn't give to her. She's my heroine, not only for what she endured and not only for coming out and speaking, but for sitting there and still remaining so passionately human in the face of someone who denied her humanity. It's more than I could do. And she's my heroine of the week because she reminds us that we are better than that. We are better than them.
When I was taken to Gaza, I was kidnapped. I was caught 3 times. And the last time, I was caught by 13 Hamas terrorists. 13. You doesn't have to. Don't force him. I just want him to hear it. He's a person. He is entitled to have his own agenda and opinions. We do not have to have the same opinions. I just want you to know the facts that you talked about, really. Right before the debate started, I wanted to ask you where you're from. Are you from here, from the US? Okay, I visited the US. I have the facts because I've been here. Have you visited Israel before? No. Have you visited Gaza before? Probably not. Do you know how much violence was taken on me? I was caught in the middle of a lynch while I was entering Gaza, and there is a video of that. I saw 100% of civilians celebrating me being taken. I didn't know about the other hostages. I thought it was only me. I didn't know about that. All I saw is 100% of civilians lynching me, beating me up. I was with a broken leg. I had bruises all over my body. Do you know that I've never cursed them? Because I believe that if I want to be respected, I have to respect everybody else. So I'm asking you one thing and one thing only, because I see you're not comfortable. I'm asking you to check facts on both sides.
I just wish her recuperation and love and never ever suffering again, and may all the hostages come home and recuperate and remain there and retain their humanity somehow.
It's an extraordinary clip, extremely powerful, and makes me wonder, because we've seen this kind of nobility with so many hostage families and former hostages, and it makes me wonder if when you go through something so extreme, you enter almost another level of consciousness.
I wonder.
I couldn't do what she did either.
Not.
And I just have to point out, just to round out the picture, that this little creep who sat beside her, he also
I just want to rip his mustache off.
right? I just want like bad mustache. Has he not heard of Movember? Like Movember is a joke for a reason. Anyhow, so good hero. My hero, nobody ever throw this back in my face, but my hero for this week is the Dutch political leader Geert Wilders, or Geert Wilders as he would say. But Americans, you would probably say Geert Wilders.
Yes.
So whatever floats your boat, I'm good with that. What's more important is that after the Amsterdam pogrom, Wilders, who is the leader of the largest party in the Dutch coalition, it's very much like Israel, it's a complete mess. He's the leader of the largest party, but he agreed that he was too polarizing a figure to be prime minister, even though the spot was rightfully his. So he stepped aside, but he basically controls everything. And he's been under very close police protection for over 20 years now. Him and his wife, they live under protection constantly. They live in a safe house. They move a lot. And some call him an extremist, but I'll tell you, he hit the dartboard. He got the bullseye this week, because after the pogrom and the continuing riots, he said, you know what? Any one of these people, and most of them, according to Dutch experts from left to right, are Muslims of Moroccan descent. Most of them were born in the Netherlands. They're not, fresh off the boat kind of thing. And Wilders said, if they have citizenship in another country, we deport. Period.
Als die schuldig wordt bevonden natuurlijk, dat is wel de voorwaarde voor terreur, wat nu het criterium is. Voor mij mag dat ook, maar dat moet dan aan de wet worden toegevoegd vanwege antisemitische daden. Maar dan, je kan dat voor iedereen doen, het afnemen van de Nederlandse nationaliteit die een meervoudige nationaliteit heeft. Dus ook Marokkanen, die ook als ze hier geboren zijn, die kunnen dat kwijtraken.
So people were, of course, going crazy about that. And
you're saying once they were prosecuted for whatever.
correct, that would be the assumption.
Right.
Yeah, that, you would, there's plenty of evidence.
Yeah. Thank God for social media and videos.
Yep. Social
Security
media,
cameras.
videos, chat rooms, all kinds of things,
yeah.
license plates. Like, there's plenty of forensic evidence that can be brought to bear. It's all a matter of political will.
Right.
And, his comment and comments similar that were made by other members of his party led to the resignation of a Dutch Moroccan political figure, and that government's teetering. It's probably going to fall, and it's going to go even further to the right. That's the expectation. But Geert Wilders, thank you for standing up and speaking out on a really tough issue.
Yeah, it's hard to find someone who's actually able and willing to speak truth in these days and times. It's scary, actually. It's really, really scary. I don't see why we wouldn't deport someone who is a domestic terrorist, who is being not, adding to society, but actively taking away from society and making it unstable for everyone else. Like, that seems to me
We've lost the
logical. I don't know why that's considered extreme, but okay.
Yeah, it is, because we've lost the ability to speak truth.
Yeah.
And to see it.
Not here, not in this studio.
Not in this little room. No way, Jose. No oxygen left in here. Well, that's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. We certainly did. We did, Shoshanna.
Yeah, lots
I
of
know.
fun.
This is too much fun. So Fleur and Emily, if you want to do like a sort of continued sabbatical, we're good. We got this. Thank you so much for tuning in. Always great to be here. And have a great week.